Welcome to TraslaWalesia. Hello, it is Halloween and I meant to take part in Shocktober movement, which reads some horror novels during October and puts up reviews on BookTube, but I've been so snowed under with work, finish up on my own next book, A Dark History of Whiskey, available February next year. I've been overwhelmed with work and I haven't really got around to it. All I've read this month is an Ian Rankin novel and a Joe Nesbo novella, so neither of those qualify for Shocktober. So what I wanted to talk to you today is about some fab classic monster movies that have stood the test of time that you can watch for this Halloween. Because when I was a kid, I grew up in the 1970s. I was born in 1965, so by mid-1975 I was 10-year-old. It was a great time to be a fan of monsters and ghouls and ghoulies, because you had Marvel Comics over here in the UK. The UK arm of Marvel Comics were publishing Dracula Lives, Planet of the Apes, The House of Frankenstein, comics like that. It was really cool, and we had all of the imports which we'd regularly see of Forrest Ackerman's famous Monsters of Filmland. So it was really cool, you know, and monsters kind of had kind of a mythical status if you were a young boy or a teenager during those years, because we didn't really get to see many of the horror films. Now, the BBC Two, when I was a kid, late on a Saturday night, they did it with both the Universal horror films and then the Hammer horror films, and then all the other smaller companies and all, Amicus and Tyburn films, they'd have an horror double bill. And the first time I became aware of this, because it was always late on BBC Two on a Saturday night, and I wasn't allowed to stay up that late, so I'd often sneak down after my parents had gone to bed and watch these classic horror films from years gone by, and they still stand up to today.
Mr. Carl Lemley feels it would be a little unkind to present this picture without just a word of friendly warning. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you.
Years gone by, and they still stand up to today, you know. I mean, how can they not when they starred the likes of Bela Lugosi, Boris Karloff, Lon Chaney Jr., you know, so these are really cool films. So there's just a few I'd like to recommend you. I've dug out several of my DVDs. I've got digital copies of most of these films as well. But I just wanted to recommend some to you, and of course, probably a classic must-watch is Dracula, starring Bela Lugosi. This was from 1931, I believe.
Dracula. Count Dracula?
Yeah. So the 1931 classic, which was directed by Todd Browning. I'm watching it now, especially if you can get it on a big screen. It's really cool, you know. You're watching a film that is so old, and of course film images are made up of light. So in a way, you're watching long dead sunlight, you know, light from. Oh, it's just a wonderful film, and Bela Lugosi is so
For one
great.
who has not lived even a single lifetime, you are a wise man, Ben
It's just a
Elfing.
wonderful film, and Bela Lugosi is so great as Dracula. Of course, Universal followed up the success of Dracula with Frankenstein, and I still think that Universal's version of Frankenstein, as played by Boris Karloff, is the definitive screen adaptation. Now, I've got a lovely DVD in the same series as this, which features both the original Frankenstein and then The Bride of Frankenstein. And The Bride of Frankenstein is one of the very few sequels that is better than the original. Probably alongside films like Godfather 2, because Godfather 2 improved on the original, as did The Bride of Frankenstein. I can't find my DVD, I can't quite put my hands on it, but here's one of the later Frankenstein movies from Universal, and this is The House of Frankenstein. Lon Chaney as Frankenstein's monster. Lon Chaney wasn't as successful a monster as Frankenstein, although he does a fairly decent job. You can't top Boris Karloff's version. Boris Karloff actually appears in this, but not as the monster. This time he is a deranged Zionist, Gustav Nyman, who, after escaping from prison, he pulls a stake. He finds the body of Count Dracula, as you do, and pulls a stake out. And Count Dracula is back, played this time by John Carradine, and of course they also resurrect Frankenstein's monster. The Universal film. The Universal films towards the end of their run did become overly humorous, and the final insult to what was a classic series was pitting the famous monster characters against the likes of Abbott and Costello. But another
Wait! Don't go!
Another Universal film that's well worth digging out is The Invisible Man. Claude Rains gives a wonderful performance in this film. This was directed by James Whale, who also directed the Frankenstein movies. Jumping forward, another film studio who benefited from Universal's legacy later on was Hammer Films, who remade most of the Universal classics.
Hammer comes as images of fantasy and terror. Like comedies from Britain's Ealing Studio, cartoons from Disney or westerns from Republic, the Hammer style was unique and distinctive.
Classics.
By subtle implication.
But they weren't traditionally remakes as they... these were classic stories. Dracula, Frankenstein, they were all classic stories, so they basically... But they took a lot of influence from the Universal films. Here's Hammer's version of The Curse of the Werewolf, which stars Oliver Reed. Now, by and large, I prefer the Universal monster films to the Hammer monster films, although I love both. But I think this may be one of the instances where I'd be on the fence if I had to say whose version of the werewolf was better. Was it Hammer's or was it Universal's? I think I slightly prefer the Universals, but Oliver Reed's performance in this film is absolutely superb. What about... Dracula, another character that Universal had such success with, and here is one of Hammer's Dracula films. This is The Scars of Dracula. Very difficult, I couldn't decide. I mean, Bela Lugosi only played, although he played Dracula more than the one time, he only played him to the best of his abilities in the first of his Dracula films, and that was Dracula. But the same can be argued for Christopher Lee, because Christopher Lee's performance as Dracula in that first Dracula movie, The House of Dracula, is, or The Horror of Dracula rather, excuse me, is brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. Although he played him several times after, I mean, here's one, Dracula AD 1972, where they tried to bring Dracula into the modern age. Don't forget, these were shot in the 1970s. It's okay, it's fun, it's kind of camp, but it hasn't got the quality of Christopher Lee's first Dracula.
Master, I did it. I summoned you. It was my will.
It hasn't got the quality of Christopher Lee's first Dracula film, ditto Dracula as risen from the grave. But same with Scars of Dracula, but I couldn't say which Dracula I actually prefer. It depends what mood I'm in. I think Bela Lugosi's the 1931 Dracula is an absolutely superb film. It's atmospheric, it's shot in a wonderful, vivid black and white. But then, when Christopher Lee got to play Dracula, when Hammer Films when Hammer Films delivered their take on the classic monster, that was pretty groundbreaking too.
That was the first time, I think, in my short career at that time that I realized that I actually did want to act. This was really it, because I believed in what I was doing.
Something new, yet as old as time.
Come on, Johnny.
A date with the devil.
I was Dracula.
And of course, it trumpeted the fact that it was now in vivid Technicolor. There's a lovely DVD, old DVD I've got, which features Boris Karloff, Bela Lugosi and Lon Chaney, and it's an affectionate look at the monsters. I believe this was it's Wayne and Schuster presents an affectionate look at the monsters. I believe this was actually shown back in the day on American TV. I can't really see any date on it of when it was. It's a Region Zero DVD, so it's a cheaply produced DVD, but it's quite cool. It's quite good. What about sci-fi horror? And a couple of films that Hammer really did well. It was towards the beginning of their interest in sci-fi and horror, before they'd done the Draculas and the Frankensteins and suddenly went all out for Eve in Bosoms and Vivid Red Blood. And these are DVD copies that I transferred from old VHS videos where I recorded them when they were shown back on BBC Two in the day, and I loved that, and then I burned them to DVD. So this is the Quatermass Experiment and Quatermass and the Pit. These are highly recommended films.
There's a story that Mary Philbin fainted when she took off his mask. It could have been true, because it was enough to make anybody faint.
Recommended films. So it's Halloween, and rather than settling down and watching the latest slasher movie with some demented clown or the guy with long fingernails is going around slashing teens, why not watch a classic horror film that's got atmosphere, a film from more innocent times? So there we are. Happy Halloween, everyone.